we're all nervous of a progression pathway. And most of us, given our own natural pace, would err on the side of caution and go, you know what, I'm not quite ready for that job. I'll just wait a bit. And what the military does is it moves you on every 2 to 3 years, and it's got the system where it pushes you to the top, and it pushes you to be the best version of yourself. And therefore, when you're inclined to be comfortable, it pushes you on. And actually, what I've learned from that process is actually, rather than hold back what I should have been doing and what others should do, is really push themselves. And rather than be comfortable, be uncomfortable. Because when you're being uncomfortable, that's when you're learning the most. That's when you're really starting to learn and develop. And actually, if you take charge of your own career pathway and look for a role and think, I'm not sure I'm ready, you probably are. And to go for it and to give it a try, because the only way you'll improve and progress is to do that. So Mark Cameron, I'm a military veteran, so I'm very proud of that. I spent nearly 40 years in the Royal Navy, which is most of my work in life. And since I left the Royal Navy, I've moved into the charity sector, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer of an organisation called the 5% Club. So I joined the Royal Navy in 1982 as a 16-year-old, and I went into a careers office in deepest, darkest Dorset, which some people are aware of. There's Bournemouth and Weymouth, but I was in North Dorset. Went into a careers office in Dorchester and said, I'm doing really well at school. I quite like a scholarship to be an officer. And they laughed at me. And what they said was, I'm sorry, people from your school don't become officers. So they encouraged me to join as a rating. And I joined as what was then called an artificer and went on an apprenticeship for 5 years. But interestingly, over that period, I proved my worth in the Navy. And as soon as I'd finished my artificer apprenticeship, I went off to Dartmouth, became an officer and read for a degree whilst in the Royal Navy. So whilst I did nearly 40 years in the Navy, the first 11 years were in school, effectively doing an apprenticeship and a degree. So I was really made in the Royal Navy, which and I say that advisedly because I headed up the Royal Navy's recruitment organisation, and there was something quite satisfying heading up the organisation as a captain then, as a fairly senior officer in the Navy, when the organisation told me I couldn't join as an officer in the first place. So I found that quite satisfying in a way. Everyone assumes an extrovert is in a position of strength and the introvert is weak. The people who talk a lot and are gregarious and outward going are the strong, and the people who are slightly less outward are the weak. Someone once told me that the introverts are in a position of power, not weakness. Because if you want to know what an extrovert's thinking, you listen. But if you want to know what an introvert's thinking, you've got to ask. So the introverts, in a way, hold all the cards because they know what they're thinking and they know what the extroverts are thinking. And what you find with really good introverts who embrace that extroversion, who've really forced themselves to engage in the discussion when actually they want to be quiet, is they know how to include others. So they're always on the lookout for the other quiet person. And that's where, in a meeting or in a leadership role, don't worry about the people who are talking a lot. You always focus on the people who are quiet, because they're probably the person with the pearl of wisdom. So, I wouldn't worry about being an introvert. I wouldn't worry about trying to become an extrovert. What I would do is look about how you can be involved in the discussion, and most importantly, ensure others are as well. Because it's that pearl of wisdom from the quiet person in the corner that's probably going to be the game changer. You might as well do something you enjoy as opposed to be a wage slave. Yes, I know for certain people that becomes quite a challenge, but there are ways to evolve. And, I'm talking here about people who struggle at school, people who struggle to get a job, and for whom just getting a job is important in order to break the cycle and to do things. But when you get that job, just look around and go, who's not enjoying work and who's enjoying work. Talk to people in the workplace, learn from them, and then work out what you would need to do to move forward. And I think what we're seeing in the current employment is less of a focus on traditional credentials, the qualifications, and more a focus on the skills and the interpersonal skills in particular. And we shouldn't be limited by what the education system said we were at age 16, 18 or 21. Once you get into the workplace, yeah, that got you into the workplace, but people like you and employ you for you generally and what you bring to the party. So, you know, don't stick with it for the sake of it. Look around and then be really challenging of your employer to get them to invest in you. Be bold and take a bit of risk. And if you make a mistake, you learn from it. So when you start on a career, there's going to be false starts. You're going to go down certain roads which others may shape for you or which you believe you want to go down. But they won't always end in success. But don't worry about that. And there's a period as you start out which is all about experimentation. And what you'll find is you'll have that dream job, you'll get the job and you'll go to it and it'll be quite dull. And you'll go, do I stick with it or not? And if it feels quite dull, it's probably not right for you. And you'll experiment, you'll find things, and then all of a sudden you'll go into a certain role or in a certain function and those lights will come on and you'll go, you know what, this fits like my hand in a lovely glove. That's the role for you. It's not the role for everybody, but that's the role for you. Once you find that, once you get excited by it, then pursue it with vigor. But just remember that life is about balance and life is about the journey. It's not about getting there. So it's great to have ambition. It's great to have expectations, but it's more important to have fun as you're going through the process than worrying about where you want to be.